There are moments when rest arrives. Instead of relief, something inside you tightens. The body slows down. The room grows quiet. Nothing urgent is asking for your attention. And yet a small unease begins to move through you. Not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet restlessness that makes stillness feel slightly unsafe. You may notice it in the way your mind begins searching for something to do, a message to check, a task to remember, a thought to untangle, as if the silence itself has edges, and part of you cannot quite lean into it. For some people, rest feels like a warm room. For others, it feels more like standing in an unfamiliar space where the lights have suddenly been turned off. Nothing bad is happening. But the absence of movement leaves too much room for awareness. It's too much room to notice the things that usually stay hidden beneath activity. This isn't always something you consciously chose. It often begins much earlier, in quieter ways. In homes where responsibility arrived before ease did, environments where attention meant staying alert to what might shift, change, or need you. Where stillness wasn't really stillness, it was the moment before something happened. You might have learned without realizing it that calm was temporary, that being prepared mattered more than being relaxed. So your mind developed a quiet habit. It stayed slightly awake, even when nothing was wrong, not in panic, just in readiness. A subtle watchfulness that sits behind the surface of your day. Over time, this kind of awareness becomes familiar, blends into the background of how you move through the world. You work, you plan, you respond, you stay engaged. And while it can look like productivity on the outside, something deeper is happening underneath. Movement becomes the place where your nervous system recognizes safety, because movement means you are aware. It means you are prepared. It means you are participating in what might come next. Rest, on the other hand, removes that structure. When activity fades, the mind loses the rhythm it has relied on, and suddenly there is nothing between you and your own internal landscape. That's when the subtle tension can appear. It's not because rest is dangerous, because unfamiliar quiet can feel like uncertainty. The mind begins reaching for something solid, a problem to think about, a task to organize, a small worry to hold on to. Anything that restores the sense of orientation it knows so well. From the outside, it may look like difficulty relaxing. But inside, it is often something quieter than that. It's a system that learned over time that awareness was protective. So when rest arrives, part of you keeps listening, keeps scanning, keeps gently leaning forward even while your body sits still. There is a quiet intelligence in this pattern. It formed in response to something real, something your younger self needed in order to feel steady in a world that may not always have felt steady. No one sat down and explained this process to you. It simply unfolded, moment by moment, year by year. A child noticing moods in a room. A teenager carrying responsibilities that felt heavier than they appeared. An adult who learned that staying engaged keeps life from slipping too far out of control. None of this happens dramatically. It accumulates, like small layers of dust settling over time until they become part of the surface itself. Eventually, being active no longer feels like effort. It feels normal, expected, almost comforting. The place where awareness has nowhere to go. So the mind continues doing what it learned long ago, stays slightly alert, even when rest is available. This kind of quiet vigilance has a cost, though not a visible cost. Not something people easily notice. It shows up more subtly, the feeling that true rest never quite reaches you. In the way evenings sometimes carry a low hum of unfinished energy, in the strange experience of being tired. While still feeling internally awake, it can make calm moments feel incomplete, like a door that never fully closes. It's like a room where one light is always left on somewhere down the hall. You might lie down after a long day expecting relief. Instead, the mind becomes more active. Thoughts arrive not as problems, but as movement. The system searching for the rhythm it understands. Sometimes this creates a quiet distance from your own body. As if the part of you that observes life never entirely clocks out, it watches, it listens. It stays just slightly forward in time. Over years, this can feel like a kind of background fatigue, not the sharp exhaustion that comes from overwork, but a softer, deeper tiredness. It's a kind that comes from holding awareness for too long. Yet even this fatigue rarely asks for attention, because the habit of continuing is so well practiced. You keep moving, you keep thinking, you keep organizing the invisible threads of your life, and rest continues to feel slightly unfinished. But there is another way to see this pattern. Not as a flaw, not as a failure to relax. More like a language your nervous system learned early. A language built from responsibility, awareness, and quiet survival. The body remembers what once kept things stable, even long after those conditions have changed. So when rest arrives and a small unease appears beside it, that feeling is not random. It is recognition. A system noticing that the familiar signals of movement and engagement have disappeared. It doesn't mean rest is wrong for you. It only means stillness speaks a dialect you haven't heard often. And unfamiliar languages always sound slightly uncertain at first. There is a quiet dignity in the way human beings adapt. The mind learns patterns that help us navigate complexity. The body holds memory not just of events, but of the emotional climates we lived inside. Sometimes the things that once protected us remain long after protection is no longer needed. Not because we are broken, but because the system is loyal to what it learned. It continues repeating the rhythms that once helped you stay steady. When you see it this way, the anxiety that appears during rest begins to look different. Less like resistance, more like an echo, an old signal traveling through a quieter present. And echoes are not problems. They are simply sounds that linger in spaces where something once happened. Your mind may still lean toward activity when silence arrives. Your awareness may still search the room even when everything is calm. That doesn't erase your capacity for rest. It only reveals how long you have been attentive to the world around you. Some people were shaped by environments where ease arrived early and often. Their nervous systems learned calm as a familiar rhythm. Others learned something slightly different. They learned how to stay present in motion, how to remain aware, how to keep moving forward through uncertainty. Both are forms of intelligence. Both are ways of surviving a complex world, and neither needs to be judged. Sometimes understanding the origin of a pattern softens the tension around it, not because the pattern disappears, but because the quiet shame around it fades. You begin to see that nothing about this response is irrational. It is simply a memory of how your system once stayed safe. When rest feels uneasy, it is not proof that you are doing something wrong. It is only a reminder that your mind has spent many years practicing awareness. Awareness became your ground, your orientation, your way of staying steady. So when the world becomes quiet, the part of you that learned to watch may remain awake a little longer, and perhaps that's okay. Perhaps rest does not have to arrive as perfect calm. Perhaps it can exist alongside a small trace of alertness, a gentle overlap between old habits and new conditions. Human systems rarely change in sudden, dramatic ways. They soften slowly. They shift through familiarity rather than force. So if rest sometimes carries a thin thread of anxiety, that thread may simply be part of your history, speaking quietly in the background, not demanding anything, not asking to be solved, just reminding you of how carefully you once learned to move through the world. And here, in this moment of stillness, even that awareness is allowed to rest beside you.